Do you remember the chases, the explosions, the fearless faces of Hard Target? Back in 1993, it redefined action cinema. But what happened after the cameras stopped rolling makes the movie look tame. From failed marriages to quiet comebacks, the cast's real lives turned out even more dramatic than the movie itself. Today, we uncover their secrets, their struggles, and where fate has taken them in 2025. Lance Henrikson as Emile Fouchon. Lance Henrikson was born on May 5, 1940, in New York, USA. He was 53 years old when he played Emile Fouchon, a cold, ruthless hunter with an aristocratic air in Hard Target, 1993. The character cemented his reputation in Hollywood's 1990s action scene. But behind those intense roles was a private life filled with turbulence and decades of lingering pain. Henrikson went through 3 marriages, all of which ended in exhaustion and silence. His first marriage collapsed under the weight of poverty and an unsteady career. His second marriage, to Jane Pollock, lasted 28 years but was marked by strain. Long shoots away from home slowly pulled them apart. They tried to mend things for the sake of their child, but Henrikson was too absorbed in his craft and the dark roles he played. Their divorce in 2008 left a deep scar, and afterward, he became more withdrawn. His current marriage to Sylvia has been peaceful, yet old age has brought illness and loneliness, leaving them dependent on one another. In recent years, Henrikson has battled chronic joint pain and a weakened respiratory system caused by decades of smoking. He once said, "Every action role leaves a mark on my body." At times, he had to pause filming because he could no longer stand for more than 10 minutes. Still, he maintained a strong image before the public, treating pain as part of his art. Henrikson never complained. He simply carried on, slower and more weary, yet steadfast, just as he had faced every wound life dealt him. Today, Lance Henrikson is 85 years old and lives with Sylvia in California. He continues to appear in small, independent films, treating acting as a form of therapy. His estimated net worth of about $5 million is the result of more than 200 roles and decades of tireless work. Wilfried Brimley as Uncle Clarence Duval. Wilfried Brimley was born on September 27, 1934, in Salt Lake City, Utah. In 1993, he was 59 years old when he played Uncle Clarence Duval in Hard Target, a sincere, warm-hearted uncle symbolizing family love in a cruel world. But behind the scenes, he endured years of heavy marital strain and lifelong illness. Brimley's first marriage to Lynn Bagley lasted over 40 years, but it was far from peaceful. Long periods away from home created an ever-widening distance between them. Lynn raised their 4 children alone, while Brimley spent most of his time on set. When she passed away in 2000, he was devastated. That loneliness eventually led him to Beverly Berry, his second wife and co-founder of the charity foundation Hands Across the Saddle. Yet even as love returned, illness refused to release its grip. Brimley was diagnosed with type 2 diabetes in 1979 and required lifelong treatment. Over time, the disease led to kidney complications, forcing him to undergo dialysis several times a week. The physical pain never left him, but Brimley remained calm and kept his familiar, gentle smile. However, in his final years, his health deteriorated rapidly, and each public appearance left fans heartbroken to see his frailty. On August 1, 2020, Wilfried Brimley passed away at St. George Regional Hospital in Utah at the age of 85, after 2 months of battling acute kidney failure, a complication of diabetes. His net worth of around $8 million was divided between his family and the charitable foundation he had established, as stated in his final wishes. Jean-Claude Van Damme as Chance Boudreau. Jean-Claude Van Damme was born on October 18, 1960, in Brussels, Belgium. In Hard Target, 1993, he was 33 years old when he played Chance Boudreau, a skilled, courageous, and solitary Cajun veteran who rescues Natasha from a deadly manhunt. The role propelled Van Damme to the peak of fame, cementing his title as the Muscles from Brussels of the 1990s. But while his on-screen persona embodied strength and heroism, his real life was filled with tragedy, heartbreak, and addiction. Van Damme's love life was a whirlwind of passion, betrayal, and pain. His 6 marriages to 5 different women left deep scars on his soul. His first marriage to Maria Rodriguez collapsed under the weight of poverty and the hardships of starting over in America. His second, with Cynthia Derderian, ended quickly after an affair. His longest and most turbulent relationship was with bodybuilder Gladys Portugues, the mother of his 2 children, marked by jealousy, lawsuits, and the agony of watching her husband spiral into addiction. In 1998, Van Damme was diagnosed with bipolar disorder. The illness, coupled with a severe cocaine addiction, drove him to the edge. At one point, he was spending $10,000 a week on drugs, sleeping only 4 hours a night, and losing complete control of his life. It was only through discipline and abruptly quitting substances that he managed to pull himself out of the darkness. Now, Jean-Claude Van Damme is 65 years old, living in Los Angeles and still appearing in action projects, mostly as a guest star or martial arts coach. He leads a slower life now, devoting time to meditation and charity work in Europe. His estimated net worth of $25 million comes from film, a wine brand, and real estate. A remarkable sum for a man who once nearly lost everything to addiction. Yancy Butler, as Natasha Binder. Yancy Butler was born on July 2, 1970, in Greenwich Village, New York. When she playing Natasha Binder in Hard Target, 1993. A determined young woman searching for her father amidst a deadly human hunt when she was only 23 years old. Her strength and emotional depth brought tenderness to an otherwise violent film. With her intense eyes and confident demeanor, Butler was once hailed as the next great female action star of Hollywood. But her life soon took a dark turn. Yancy's only marriage, to actor Michael O'Keefe, 1998 to 2000, fell apart after just 2 years. She later admitted that her alcoholism destroyed the relationship, turning romantic evenings into arguments and tears. O'Keefe tried to help her recover, but work stress and failed treatments led them to give up. Their divorce involved minor financial disputes and sent Butler into a deep depression. From that point on, she became reclusive, fearful of love, and closed herself off from the world. Alcohol became the greatest enemy of her life. She began drinking in her 20s to escape stress, but later became addicted to the point of multiple arrests for drunk driving. Between 2011 and 2016, she was detained 6 times for disorderly conduct and even served short jail sentences. She lost film contracts, was publicly humiliated by the media, and sank into debt. After years of treatment, she eventually overcame her addiction, but she still lives with the fear of relapse every time she sees a glass of wine. By 2025, Yancy Butler is 55 years old, living alone in Winnetka, Los Angeles. She rarely appears in public, taking only minor guest roles in Law and Order or small independent films. Her estimated net worth is around $1 million, mostly earned from her early career successes such as Hard Target and Drop Zone. Joe Warfield as Isaac Zena. Joe Warfield was born on November 6, 1937, in Baltimore, Maryland, USA. At 56 years old, he played Isaac Zena, a wealthy hunter who still retained a trace of humanity, the only antagonist in the film to reveal an inner conflict between conscience and guilt in Hard Target, 1993. Though his role was small, it allowed Warfield to showcase a rare moral depth in a violent action movie, a reflection of his own thoughtful and empathetic nature in real life. Warfield's only marriage lasted for decades, though not without strain. His wife, an art lecturer, shared his love for the stage, yet their busy schedules often kept them apart for years at a time. Warfield frequently traveled between New Orleans and New York to teach, while his wife managed their home. Despite the fatigue and distance, They never gave up on each other. It was only after her death that Warfield admitted to understanding true loneliness. In his later years, Warfield continued to teach and direct tirelessly, even as his health declined. He once collapsed from stress while balancing his teaching and film work, but never considered retiring. The long flights, late-night rehearsals, and exhaustion wore down his body, yet the light in his eyes when he stood before his students remained as bright as ever. Joe Warfield passed away on November 29, 2022, in Baltimore at the age of 85, from natural causes related to age and physical exhaustion. He was laid to rest beside his late wife in a small, emotional ceremony. His net worth was estimated at about $500,000, earned mostly from teaching and supporting roles, enough for him to live simply and continue contributing to the craft he loved until the very end. Arnold Vosloo as Pick Van Cleef. Arnold Vosloo was born on June 16, 1962, in Pretoria, South Africa. When he was 31 years old when he played Pick Van Cleef, the ruthless and loyal right-hand man of Emile Fouchon in Hard Target, 1993. With his cold stare and assassin-like poise, Vosloo created a sharp, memorable villain that paved the way for his later Hollywood success in The Mummy and G.I. Joe. Yet behind the camera, his life was one of solitude, a man who paid for his passion with love and youth. Vosloo's first marriage to Nancy Mulford, his co-star in Act of Piracy, seemed solid but ended after only 3 years. Long shooting schedules and a nomadic lifestyle tore them apart. In 1998, he married Sylvia Ahi, a Mexican-American marketing executive. Their marriage lasted nearly 3 decades, but was also filled with long separations, as Vosloo frequently worked abroad in South Africa and Europe. In 2025, Sylvia filed for divorce, bringing an end to 27 years together. Years of living away from home left Vosloo struggling between his identity and his career. After becoming a U.S. citizen, he often said he never truly belonged anywhere. The relentless filming schedules and fame-induced pressure caused insomnia and chronic stress. At one point, he took a hiatus from acting to treat mild depression and mental fatigue. Even so, he maintained a disciplined, healthy lifestyle, avoiding alcohol and drugs, relying on exercise and meditation as his medicine for balance. Now, Arnold Vosloo is 63 years old, living alone in California. He continues to take on villain roles in action films and is an active supporter of animal protection charities. His net worth is estimated at about $2 million, largely from The Mummy and other Hollywood projects. Vosloo no longer seeks fame or spotlight. He only wishes for peace after decades of being typecast as the bad guy. Cassie Lemons as Marie Mitchell. Cassie Lemons was born on February 24, 1959, in St. Louis, Missouri, USA. She was 34 years old when she played Detective Marie Mitchell, a sharp, strong, and determined police officer who helps Natasha expose the deadly manhunt in Hard Target, 1993. Though a small role, her character's strength perfectly reflected Lemons herself, a fearless woman who would later become one of Hollywood's few successful black female directors. Lemons' marriage to actor-director Vondie Curtis Hall, which began in 1995, has been both enduring and challenging. The two are not only husband and wife, but also creative partners, writing, directing, and raising 4 children together. Lemons once said, "We love each other, but we also work like 2 soldiers on different fronts." The constant effort to balance family and career often caused tension between them. At one point, Lemons considered stepping away from filmmaking to focus on their young children, but Hall encouraged her to continue. This difference led to a long period of silence between them, yet love and mutual respect for their craft ultimately kept their marriage strong. The pressures of constant creation eventually took a toll on Lemons' mental health. She suffered from insomnia, anxiety, and exhaustion during the production of Harriet, 2019. But instead of breaking down, She transformed that experience into creative power, using her films to tell stories of strength and freedom. Her resilience helped her overcome those difficult years and establish herself in an industry still challenging for women of color. In 2025, Cassie Lemons is 66 years old, living in New York with her husband and children. She continues to direct, teach, and inspire the next generation through artistic and educational projects. With an estimated net worth of about $5 million earned from filmmaking and teaching, she stands as proof that success built on resilience and conviction endures. Chuck Pfarrer as Douglas Binder. Chuck Pfarrer was born on April 13, 1957, in Boston, Massachusetts, USA. When he appeared in Hard Target, 1993, he was 36 years old and played Douglas Binder, Natasha's father, a homeless veteran haunted by his past and the tragic figure that sets the story in motion. The role carried a personal resonance, as Pfarrer himself was once a SEAL Team 6 operative who had faced war, loss, and the darkness of post-traumatic memories. After leaving the military, Pfarrer lived with PTSD, the invisible wound that haunted him throughout his life. The horrifying memories of the 1983 Beirut mission, where he witnessed the explosion that killed hundreds of his comrades, left him psychologically scarred. His marriage and family life were deeply affected by sleepless nights, emotional outbursts, and constant flashbacks. He once wrote in his memoir, Warrior Soul, "I'm not afraid to die. I'm afraid of living with what I've seen." In 1998, Pfarrer faced another battle, cancer. He underwent multiple surgeries and treatments, relying on the physical strength of a former commando to recover, but mentally, he was drained. In the years that followed, he distanced himself from Hollywood, turning to screenwriting and authorship as a form of healing. Still, the after effects of his military service never fully faded. He had to maintain a strict diet, avoid stress, and live cautiously to preserve his health. Today, Chuck Pfarrer is 68 years old, living quietly in California. He spends most of his time writing scripts and teaching courses on discipline and the warrior mindset inspired by Navy SEAL training. His estimated net worth is around $3 million, mainly from screenwriting projects such as Navy SEALs and the sales of his memoir. Sven-Ole Thorsen as Stefan. Sven-Ole Thorsen was born on September 24, 1944, in Denmark. At 49 years old, he played Stefan, a proud, powerful hunter who symbolized dominance and brutality in Hard Target, 1993. With his towering physique and cold expression, Thorsen brought to life a sense of danger that was both physical and psychological, the essence of a real fighter who had emerged from the world of professional sports. Before coming to Hollywood, Thorsen was a renowned bodybuilder and martial artist in Denmark. But after decades of competition and performing action scenes, his body paid a heavy price, with injuries to his shoulders, back, and knees. Doctors once warned him to quit stunt work or risk spending the rest of his life in a wheelchair, but he refused, saying, "Pain is the price of passion." His personal life, however, was far steadier than his career. After divorcing Anniqua in 1991, he remarried Birgitta Sunding in 2013. The two live a simple life, caring for Birgitta's 3 children and their 2 beloved dogs, whom Thorsen calls his loyal companions. Old age brought new challenges. Old injuries flared up, forcing him to undergo regular physical therapy. He once said that every morning when he stepped out of bed, the pain in his joints made him feel like he was hearing the echoes of a lifetime of punches. Yet he remains optimistic, dedicating his time to teaching martial arts to young people and advocating for animal rights, something he calls the ethics of a warrior. In 2025, Sven-Ole Thorsen is 81 years old and lives in Santa Monica, California, with Birgitta Sunding and their small family. He occasionally appears in nostalgic action projects, but spends most of his time teaching and writing his memoirs. His estimated net worth is around $1 million. earned from acting, coaching, and his autobiography. Lenor Banks as Marie. Lenor Banks was born on December 31, 1931, in New Orleans, Louisiana, USA. When she was 62 years old, she played Marie, a kind-hearted local woman who helps Natasha during her escape in Hard Target, 1993. Though a small role, it left a warm impression of humanity and compassion amid a world of violence, reflecting the gentle and gracious nature of Lenor herself, an actress admired by her peers for her humility and grace. Lenor's life was deeply tied to the theater of the American South. She married young, but her marriage lasted less than 2 decades due to the demands of her acting career. Constant travel between theater companies kept her away from her husband and child, leading to a quiet divorce. She once said, "I chose art, and art is never an easy companion." Though she lived alone afterward, she never remarried, devoting her entire life to theater and to teaching acting in Baton Rouge, where her students affectionately called her the mother of local arts. In her later years, Lenor faced mounting health problems due to age. A knee surgery in 2020 became a turning point. Complications from the operation left her increasingly weak. Even so, before her passing, she took part in a small community theater production, performing despite her difficulty walking. It was the last time audiences saw her on stage, smiling with the same warmth and light that had defined her career. Lenor Banks passed away on June 17, 2020, in Baton Rouge at the age of 88 due to post-surgical complications. She was laid to rest in a modest local ceremony attended by her students and theater friends. Her net worth was estimated at around $400,000, mostly from teaching and acting. Though she left behind little material wealth, she left a far greater legacy, the memory of a woman who dedicated her entire life to the stage and the light of performance. Robert Pavlovich as police detective. Robert Pavlovich was born on March 30, 1959, in New Orleans, Louisiana, USA. At 34 years old, he played a police detective, a brief but memorable role defined by his calm demeanor and distinctive regional accent in Hard Target, 1993. Though small, this appearance became a stepping stone that led to later roles in The Pelican Brief, 1993, and Sinners and Saints, 2009. Pavlovich's career has been quiet, yet steady. He worked simultaneously in film and local theater while also serving as an acting instructor in New Orleans. Financial pressure once brought him hardship, especially after a film project was canceled in the late 2000s, forcing him to sell his apartment to cover debts. Still, he refused to give up, believing, as he once said, "Acting isn't a job, it's a way of breathing." His personal life has always been private. Pavlovich once had a long-term relationship but never married, saying he feared that marriage might limit his creative freedom. "I love art more than stability," he once admitted. Though he had no children, he became a mentor to generations of young Louisiana actors. In recent years, he has devoted most of his time to teaching and supporting independent film programs, helping to nurture the local creative community. By 2025, Robert Pavlovich is 66 years old, living in New Orleans, and occasionally appearing in independent television productions. His net worth is estimated at around $500,000, earned from acting, teaching, and theater work. He continues to live simply and happily, once saying, "I never needed bright lights. Just one audience member who believes I'm real, and that's enough." Jules Sylvester as Peterson. Jules Sylvester was born on November 13, 1950, in Devon, England. When he appeared in Hard Target, 1993, he was 43 years old and played Peterson, a darkly humorous hunter whose cynical wit added a touch of irony to the violence around him. With his relaxed manner and effortless charisma, Sylvester became memorable as the funny man in hell. But beyond acting, he is best known as one of Hollywood's most respected animal trainers. Sylvester's career spans more than 40 years and includes legendary films such as Jurassic Park, Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade, and snakes on a plane. His work has always been dangerous, training snakes, wolves, lions, and even rhinos for movies. "When a snake looks at you," he once said, "you know it's not acting, so you have to be real." Though passionate about his work, the stress was immense. He often suffered scratches, sleepless nights, and lived in a state of constant alertness. Yet instead of fearing it, Sylvester embraced danger, saying, "If I weren't friends with fear, I'd have been dead long ago." His marriage has been the bright light in his adventurous life. He married Sue in 1987, and the couple has remained together for nearly 4 decades. Despite his work taking him deep into jungles, deserts, and remote film sets, Sue has always been the one waiting and supporting him. They endured difficult times, especially after his on-set accidents, but love and trust always brought them through. The couple has no children, choosing instead to care for a variety of wild animals, which they consider part of their family. Today, Jules Sylvester is 75 years old and continues to train animals for film while occasionally appearing on television as a wildlife expert. His net worth is estimated at around $2 million, mostly from his work in film and television. Living with his wife in California, he still rises at dawn each day to feed his snakes, a ritual he calls his morning meditation. When asked if he fears growing old, Sylvester laughed and said, "If a tiger can still teach me to respect life, then getting old doesn't scare me at all." Tom Lupo as Jerome. Tom Lupo was born around 1945 in the United States. In Hard Target, 1993, he was about 48 years old when he played Jerome, a fierce, violent hunter best remembered for his grenade-wielding scenes in the film's intense action sequences. Though his appearance was brief, the role allowed Lupo to showcase his gritty style and added to the film's atmosphere of brutality. He went on to appear in other action films such as Eraser, 1996, and L.A. Confidential, 1997, before quietly stepping away from Hollywood to live a more private life. Lupo's life unfolded peacefully, though not without hardship. In one rare interview, he admitted that the life of a supporting actor was unstable. "One day you're on a film set, the next day you're looking for side jobs." Without fame or long-term contracts, he often worked behind the scenes to make ends meet. While little is known about his personal life, acquaintances recalled that he went through a short-lived marriage that ended due to financial strain and distance. The heartbreak pushed him to withdraw from the spotlight and embrace a modest, drama-free life away from Hollywood. Old age brought both peace and solitude. Lupo has lived reclusively, spending his time gardening and helping local film clubs, occasionally mentoring young acting students. His health remains relatively good, though years of performing action scenes have left him with joint pain and mobility issues. He has no major illnesses, but declining stamina has forced him to turn down offers to return to the screen. For him, the golden days have passed, and the memories of film sets are enough. Now, Tom Lupo is 80 years old, living quietly in California and rarely appearing in public. His estimated net worth is around $300,000, mostly from supporting film roles and modest savings. He remains remembered as a familiar face from the 1990s action movies, an actor who gave his all, even in brief moments on screen. For Lupo, silence is the perfect ending to a life devoted to art. 3 decades later, their stories remind us that the toughest battles aren't fought on screen, but in life itself. Which of these cast members surprised you the most? Let us know in the comments, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more untold Hollywood stories.